Hey guys, it's Lauren Yates from Rave It Up here. And today I want to share with you my recent Skype interview with Canadian actress Amber Marshall, who you may know playing Amy Fleming on the Canadian TV show Heartland. We cover so many topics, from how she got started and how she found her love for animals and horses, to some behind the scenes secrets of the show, and also about her other projects like her own magazine. There's so much to cover, so let's get into it now.
3, 2, 1.
Let's do this.
Rave it up.
We're raving it up.
Rave it up.
Fun.
Hashtag Lauren, rave it up.
Sorry.
Thank you, I like that
I heard
effect.
raving. We're raving it up.
Amber, welcome to Rave It Up. It is a pleasure to have you on the show today. How are you going?
Oh, it is awesome. Thanks for having me, Lauren. It's going to be fun. This is talking across the globe, so to speak.
Yes, absolutely. I'm in the future and you're yesterday for me.
Exactly.
Now, since this is your first time on the show, we'd love to get to know you a little bit better and start from the beginning to get a good idea of how you made it to where you are today. So you have been around horses since you were a kid and have been riding really since you could walk, I heard. So did you just have horses in the family growing up? Did your parents teach you to ride, or did you get lessons?
You know, it's funny. I think that some of these things are just bred into us, so to speak. And I loved animals ever since I can remember, and my mom was always encouraging that. And I went to a fair with my parents, and there was pony rides there. And I was around 4 years old, and I, of course, wanted to ride the ponies, so my parents put
Like
me
every
on.
girl.
And exactly, but then I would refuse to get off, and they kept saying, we have to go, and then they would just keep paying the poor man to keep leading me around on this pony. And finally, when they dragged me off this pony, they said, okay, how about we start taking riding lessons on the weekend, then you can go out and see the pony. But I had fallen completely in love with this specific pony. So they took down the information, and I was able to go out to that farm every weekend, and my parents took me out there and led me around on Tony the pony, and that was kind of my intro into riding. So it wasn't necessarily that my parents had horses, but they supported my love for them, and they were so good about taking me out there every weekend. And I think that's really when my passion started to grow. And then over time, you know, you grow up and you advance. And so then I moved on to a different stable where I took English hunter-jumper lessons, and I fell in love with that. And that's right around the age of 10 to 12 when I got my first horse.
Wow, it's so good that your parents are so supportive. Some parents aren't.
You know, I think that horses are such a great thing for kids, and it's hard because they can be an expensive hobby.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's such a therapeutic hobby, and especially for young girls when, you know, it can be a tough time when you're 10 to 16, kind of that adolescent years. I think that horses are very healing, and they really help through a lot of things. You know, like, I was lucky I wasn't bullied to an extreme, but I think every girl goes through that kind of transition period where they're feeling, you know, maybe left out, or friends change, or there's all kinds of things that go on. And horses are one of those things that you can just go and forget about everything that's happening in every other part of your life. And that was what horses were for me. You know, I went out to the barn every day after school and just got lost in the world of horses. And it, to me, was an amazing experience. So I'm always an advocate when parents say, oh, should I get my kid into riding? Or, you know, it can be expensive. And I always say, if you can do it, do it. And there's so many ways where you can find just ways to make it work. You know, you can volunteer at the barn in exchange for riding lessons, or even just going out and brushing and grooming the horses. You know, that's just therapeutic in itself. And most people are more than happy to have you come out and just do that for free. So there definitely are ways that you can accomplish that if it's a budget thing.
Wow, okay, you're making me want to go do riding lessons now. And you were a veterinary assistant when you were younger too. So how was that experience? Do you think you've kind of taken any of that knowledge now into other areas of your life, like your acting on Heartland?
Totally. You know, I think that was a very valuable experience for me. And it was funny because when I was young, I always thought I was going to be a veterinarian. And if anyone asked me from the age of 3 to 16, I would tell you, I'm going to be a veterinarian. And so when I was around 13 years old, my parents said, well, if that's something that you want to do, you should start working towards that goal. And so they had me write out a list of all the things that I wanted to accomplish. And one of them was volunteering with animals or at a veterinary clinic. And they said, okay, well, go take your resume in. And so I took my resume into several vet clinics in the area. And most of them said, we're really supportive of what you're doing, but you're a little too young. And then there was one woman who said, I'm going to give you a chance because I think that you're really going out there on a limb. So she hired me on as a volunteer first, and I was there for a year, and I busted my butt. And then the next year she said, you've really proved yourself. I'm going to hire you on as part-time on our staff. So then I was able to work there for 5 years, all through my high school years, which again was so great because it was on the way home from where my high school was. So I would walk to work, right after I got done school, and I would work for 3 to 4 hours in the evenings. And I just think that it's such a great thing for kids to stay busy, especially teenagers, because I didn't know that then, but I definitely know it now that, being busy keeps you out of trouble. And I think that that's something that every parent knows in the back of their mind too. So as much as you can push your kids or just try to get as involved in as many things as you can.
Is it true that in between the filming of Heartland, you actually still help out at a local vet clinic?
I haven't in a couple of years, but I do miss it. And every once in a while, I'll just go in if there's going to be cool surgeries or things that I like that experience. It's something that you don't get anywhere else. And sometimes I'll ask, I'm good friends with our veterinarian, and I'll say, hey, if you've got anything coming up, I'd love to just come in and assist or watch or just be a part of it, because you're always learning. And I think that's one thing as humans, we're constantly evolving and learning, and it's so great to get as much experience as you can in whatever you're interested in. And so for me, it's always good with my own animals, because the more time I spend at a vet clinic, then the more I can look at my own animals and not self-diagnose, but know what's wrong and what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you know, Graham Wardle was on the show just recently, and he obviously told us that you've kind of helped him with, writing tips and things like that. Were you also giving him tips on how to play a vet and the veterinary assistant at the beginning?
Yes, I try to be subtle about it because I don't want to step on anyone's toes.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll say, maybe you guys should watch a YouTube video on that before you do that.
Yeah, why don't you try this?
Say, or maybe hold the syringe like that, or that's not where you pull blood from, because there's, it's just little things that over time, we try to make the show as real as we can. And I'm proud of the work we do, and I think that we do a really good job creating those realistic environments with horses and animals. But, not everything can be perfect, and that's when it comes to the veterinary medicine. We try to stay as accurate as possible, but of course we're using fake syringes and needles and things like that, so you have to try to, in a way, hide them as much as you can in the procedures that you're doing, because we're not, in fact, actually operating on anything or actually giving any vaccines. So it's one of those things where it's a little bit made for TV, but we try to keep it as believable as possible.
Well, I've definitely learnt a lot from that show too about horses and other animals, so it's good that you've kept it accurate.
Yeah.
And obviously acting has always been another love for you as well. You attended the Original Kids Theatre Company and started acting at the young age of 11. Can't believe that. Do you think it took away your childhood a little bit, or were you really grateful that you got to start at such an early age?
I think I was so lucky that I was brought into it gradually. I definitely think it would have taken away from my childhood if I was cast the lead character in a series right at the age of 11 and didn't have the opportunity to go to a regular school and that kind of thing. But I was lucky that the shows I was involved in were very part-time. So I was able to attend a regular school all the way up until I graduated high school.
Wow.
So I was never, in a private school or in tutoring or anything like that. The shows that I did were just 2 or 3 weeks at a time, and I would collect all my material from school and complete the work and the homework on set. But then I was able to return back to sort of a regular kid life. So I think I was really lucky that way. And with that being said, it didn't take away from my childhood at all, but I can see how it would have if it went a different way. And with Heartland, I was 18 when I was cast in the role of Amy. So I was already completed high school, and I was about to go into post-secondary and attend a university, but I withdrew when I found out I got the role of Heartland. So I guess in a way you can say that it stopped my post-secondary education path, but I'm very grateful, and I feel like I've learned so much just being on Heartland and all the experiences and the opportunities that has brought me, that I learned more than I probably would have in the course that I was going to be taking, which was in film and television itself.
Yeah.
So I think that I definitely got the education that I was hoping for, and in a way it put me so much further ahead because it was just, I was working and learning at the same time.
You got the hands-on experience instead of in a classroom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I think it's worked out for you. I don't think you needed to go to university. Look how long Heartland's been running, so... And how did you find the opportunities early on in Canada?
Well, I have my parents to thank for that, of course, because I was, as a very young girl, I was always entertaining. You know, from the age of 4, I think I have home videos of myself putting on plays and dances and skits and sing-alongs for my parents. And so they enrolled me in the Original Kids Theatre Company, and I think I was 8 years old when I first did my stage play. And that was just a really fun opportunity for me because it was an after-school program, and you just go and get together with a bunch of kids and we'd put on plays. And so that was a lot of fun, and it kind of sparked my interest in the acting world. And from there, the people that were involved in that organization, they recommended me to an agency out of Toronto, which is where all the auditions were taking place. And so my poor parents, it was a 2.5-hour drive from where I lived, and they would drive down my mom, you know, several times a week to take me to auditions and acting classes and all that kind of stuff. But it was a really great bonding time for my mom and I as well. You know, we got to spend that time together, and it was a lot of fun. And I always remember those road trips. And to this day, I love driving and I love road trips. So I don't know if that was ingrained in me early on from that experience, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I think opportunities can present themselves when you show an interest and a real dedication to something that you love. And as long as you put it out there and you say, this is what I want to do, a lot of times people will find you and they just see that spark or they see that interest and they want to help out.
Well, if you're really passionate, you've got the dedication, you'll stand out from all the others because it is a competitive industry. You got to stay in the race.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, love that. It's great hearing about all your beginning stages of how you got to where you are today. It's fantastic. And now Heartland has become the longest running 1-hour TV drama in Canadian history, so congratulations.
Thank you.
You have been doing this for 13 years now, which I'm sure must get quite repetitive, like anything for that long. How do you keep it fresh and interesting and fun for yourself playing Amy?
You know, I think it's the same with anyone who does a job for a long period of time. There's always ways that you have to keep reinventing what you do in order to not become complacent. You know, it doesn't matter if you work in a dentist office or at a desk or, you know, at a construction job. Anyone who does the same thing for a number of years will kind of start to, I guess, get bored of it if you're not keeping it fresh, like you said. And so that's the same with what all of us do, too. You know, most actors, when given the opportunity to play a role, they only do so for 1 or 2 or maybe 3 seasons. It's very rare that a show goes on over a decade. So you don't run into that problem. But like you said, with this show, you know, it's going on 13, maybe 14 years, and we've all played the same character for that long. So for me, I think the biggest thing, and what's so great about Heartland, is that we're allowed to grow and evolve and change as characters. And I think that's so important because people grow and evolve every day, and that's what keeps their life fresh and exciting and new. And so it's the same with our characters, and that's what keeps the audience captivated as well, because they don't want to see our characters going through the same problems they did 10 years ago and treating them the same way. You know, you always learn and evolve and grow, and as long as your character does that as well, then that's the way you keep it fresh.
Well, I think you may have just given some tips and advice to anybody working for that long in any industry as well.
Yeah, I think I know that it's easy to fall in that trap, And I have a lot of friends that are in, other industries or jobs, and they say, oh, I got to go do the same thing again today. I said, well, what could you do today to make it new and fresh? Is there a different way you can go about a certain task? And maybe you'll learn more about what it is you actually do and a better way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've been doing this for 10 years, so it's getting up there with how long Heartland's been on as well. But I love it so much, so the passion's always there, I think. So it's good in this job, and kind of like acting, you can do little different things in the entertainment industry to keep it fresh and interesting as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the show features a lot of liberty work for your character, Amy, now, and also amazing things like jumping and trick riding and even barrel racing. Did you actually know how to do all that before you filmed, or have you kind of learnt along the way? Or using a lot of stunt doubles?
A little bit of both, I would say.
Okay.
And, it's funny, this kind of goes back to the previous question, is that's how you keep it fresh, too, is you're learning all these new things and these new talents that you never thought would be possible. I've been a horse girl all my life, and I love horses, but I have learned so much being on the show because, like you said, I get to try every discipline in the book, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that's been really exciting for me. And so I started kind of in an English world. I did a little bit of hunter jumper and that sort of thing. And then I moved into Western, but mostly just trail riding and just having fun with my horses. So with Heartland, it's given me the opportunity to learn all those other disciplines out there.
Yeah.
And that's been really exciting for me. And it's great because I did have a foundation with horses, so I was able to adapt and learn and be open to all those other disciplines as well. And with the Liberty work itself, I think that was my greatest challenge, but also the most rewarding because I loved every minute of it. And I was able to go and spend, a few weekends with Amy Fleming, who trains the horses, to do the Liberty work on Heartland. And I was able just to do one-on-one lessons with her and really get to know her horses that we were using on the show so that I was able to do as much of that as possible. And when there was things that were a little trickier or she didn't want to, risk her horses in an unnatural environment, then she would step in and be my stunt double, which was great. And but I was able to do, I would say, 90% of the stuff myself. So I learned so much and really, really do enjoy it. So I think that's what helps as well.
You think that's your favorite new thing that you've learned?
Yeah, I would say so. It's funny because there's things that I've learned on this show that I never thought I would be doing on a horse, like horse yoga, for example.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yes, you get to learn all kinds of things that exist out there, and I think being an animal lover and a horse owner and lover, it's cool to be able to dive into all kinds of different disciplines.
Well, because I did hear and I think it was on your Instagram actually, the horse that plays Spartan has really been around since day one, so I'm guessing you have really created that bond with him as well, just like Amy has with Spartan.
Oh, it's so true, because really, I've known that horse just as long as my character has known the horse, because he came into the show that first season. And so when Amy met him was right around the same time that I met him.
Aww.
So it's been such a cool experience to be able to be on a show this long and really get to know the people that you work with, because that's one thing I hear time and time again. It's, you guys really seem like a family.
Yeah.
But it's true, because we spend so much time together. We practically are a family. We know everything about each other. We spend our grumpiest times together, our happiest times together. So really, it does create that family network and that family bond. And I'm glad that it comes across on TV, because I think that a lot of people can really see that and see that the connection that we have as cast members, whether it be, with the human cast or with the horse cast as well.
Yeah. Well, it was just so realistic that I even asked Graham, I was like, is anybody actually related in the show?
Yeah.
Apparently no one, so you guys are doing a really good job.
We all met on the first day of filming, well, just a couple days before. So yeah, it's one of those groups of people that just came together and had an instant connection, and it just, it's transformed over the years too, but it's been a lot of fun getting to know everyone.
Yeah, the family's grown over the years as well.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, the show is truly life-changing. I've watched every single episode, and it's just filled with so many amazing life lessons. And I think it's really one of the only shows that I've really seen that, work outdoors and it works with animals. And I've got to say, you are such a strong role model in the show as well, or I guess your character is, but, character wouldn't have been possible without you. And I was actually looking at some comments recently online, and one of them that just stood out to me, and I thought you'd probably love to hear it, is one girl was saying that she was actually depressed for a really long time, and then she found Heartland, and it was life-changing for her. She sees Amy as such an inspiration, and she taught her that even in the toughest times in her life, we have to just keep going no matter how we feel. So I really wanted to know from you, what have you always wanted people to get out of the show? Do you think it's that, or have you kind of thought of other things that you've implemented?
Well, of course, that makes you feel so good, that you're reaching out to people and you're touching their lives in a way that is unimaginable. And I think that Heartland is really that show that touches people.
Yeah.
And I've heard so many stories over the last decade and more of people that were in depression or even sickness. Maybe they were battling cancer, or they were recovering from a traumatic injury, or they were going through a death in the family, or something was happening in their life. And Heartland was not escape, but just that way of feeling a healing power.
Yeah.
And I think that Heartland itself, we always say in the show that we heal horses and we help, but I think in a way, people watching the show are healed by the show. And there's not a whole lot of television shows or things on TV right in this day and age that really reconnect with what life is about. There's a lot of fast-paced shows out there with, murder mysteries and cop shows and doctor shows and all of those things that are just focusing on the bad in the world.
Yeah.
And I think really Heartland focuses on the good. And that's something that's so needed in today's society. And, Graham actually always says that Heartland is like a home-cooked meal. And I fully agree with him, because it's like you can go and you can get the fast food and maybe it tastes good in the moment, like the cop shows or that, and you're just like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah.
But then you don't feel so good after.
Yeah.
I think that Heartland is like that meal that's made with love that really, it stays with you when it's done. And I think that is so important. And the fact that we're able to be a part of that and we're able to help create these stories and just these experiences for people, that makes it all worth it for sure.
Well, it's gotten to the point now I'm like sad when the season's over. I'm like, no, now I gotta wait. Well, fingers crossed it gets renewed. And I gotta say, it's one of those shows that's for everybody, like in my family, it's gone for 3 generations. I watch it, my mum watches it, my nan watches it.
Yeah, well, and that's one thing I love about it too, is people will say that it really does bring their family closer together.
Yeah.
And, that's something that's very rare in this day and age as well, that exactly like you said, 4 generations can sit down even.
Yeah.
And watch this show and be able to talk about it and call each other. And I know people that'll say, yeah, I call my grandma every week after it's been on and we chat about the episode, and really that's our bonding time. And how great is that? That's something it's so cool for me, because nobody has to worry about the content, or they don't have to explain things to their kids or worry about, coarse language or anything. It's a nice, wholesome show that everyone can enjoy.
Absolutely. So if anybody hasn't watched it yet, highly recommend. And your character Amy has really evolved over 13 years. Do you ever go back and watch early seasons and cringe?
I never really watch episodes. Like I'll check out the new episodes when they come out. But the one thing I do, I'll see all of those different Heartland memes and photos that will show up from seasons past, and I do cringe. I go, oh my, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It changed so much. But it is cool because it's almost like having a yearbook.
Yeah.
And you get to go back and see moments of your life that happened a decade ago. And I was saying that to the mother of the 2 twins who play Ty and Amy's daughter, Lindy. So Ruby and Emanuela, they play the role of Lindy. And when they were cast on the show, they were only 4 or 5 months old.
Aww.
And so now they've been on the show 3 years. And I said to their mom, I was like, this is like the best home movie ever.
Yeah.
Because you get to see them growing up and all their mannerisms, and like it is really cool. And looking back at it now, it's funny because they're twins, and even their mom has a hard time looking back on episodes and identifying
And
which
knowing
one
which
was
is
in
one.
that episode.
Yeah.
So it is really cool for us to be able to look back and see what we were like 10 years ago in those characters.
Yeah, even like flashbacks in episodes. I'm like, oh my goodness, they look so young.
Yeah, we say the same thing.
Even Tim's character, I'm just like, oh wow, even he looks younger. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, 10 years is a long time in anyone's life. But
Exactly.
I also think that, when you start and you're a late teen, and 10 years from, like, your 20s is your transition time, right? So I think that most of us who started the show when we were 19, 20, we've changed a lot.
Definitely. And especially for young teens, and you said you started at 18, so just in that time, just your facial features change and all that. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, when you think back upon it all?
Yeah.
I gotta say, Amy and Ty, been together for ages. There've been a couple of breakups, but they always get back together. I love it. And it's become such a famous love story now, and it's great to see that you have a good working relationship with your on-screen husband, Graham, who plays Ty. Do you guys feel like you have a certain level of expectation now on you because it's such a beautiful love story on TV and famous?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, totally. And we talk about that all the time on set, and we say, what do we want to show other couples in the world?
Yeah.
And we'll say that often because sometimes scripts will come out too, and we'll both go in and talk with the writers and say, I don't know, I think we should maybe be a little bit more delicate with this situation because we are a role model couple to a lot of people out there. And, you have to think about that in the bigger picture. And it's funny to say that because you never really imagine that when you're in the character, in the role. But then people will come up to you after and they say, I love how you and Ty deal with problems or situations or how you're parenting or all of those things. And so it's a very fine line because, again, it is a television show, so you have to create drama and you have to keep it interesting and heated and have those breakups and get together and all of those things
realistic
that, might not happen in a regular relationship.
Yeah.
But you have to do it delicately and, just in a way that will resonate with a lot of people and that a lot of people can take away from and say, I really like how they handled that situation.
And it might help them with their relationship.
Yeah, and that's another two characters that have really evolved over time. And I've liked that journey because, of course, when they're teenagers, they're going to handle a breakup much differently than they would, in their 20s or 30s. And I think that knowing that those characters are growing and evolving and maturing is so important as well. And that's another thing that keeps the stories fresh is how they deal with change now or how they deal with problems or issues or ex-lovers or whatever that come into their life. It's not going to be the same way that they handled it when they were 16 years old.
It just transitions along the years. I never thought of that. It is very true. And when I was doing research on you, Amber, I was, checking out your website, and I absolutely love it. Especially the blog post of all your animals. You own a lot: horses, dogs, cats, chickens, rabbits, an alpaca.
Yeah.
And I want to share with our audience today, because they might not know, unless they're obviously a huge fan of you, but many of your animals have actually been featured in Heartland. For example, Monty, the miniature horse, Remy, your dog, or Georgie's dog in the show, and also the vet clinic cat. So, did you ask the creators if you can have the animals in the show, or did they ask you since it's free animals?
Well, it's a little bit of both, I guess, because I always surround myself with animals, and I find that it's like a lot of people now will bring a dog to work, to the office, or wherever they are, because it's a form of therapy. People always, if they're having a bad day and they see an animal, they can't help but smile.
Yeah.
So I think that's the same for me, is I would always bring animals to set. honestly, it could be a chicken and her 5 chicks, or a cat, or a dog, or I've even brought a turkey to wander around set once. So,
That's
you know,
cute.
it's one of those things that people just roll their eyes, but they can't help but smile because they say, oh, here's Amber with another crazy animal. And so that's kind of how it started. And then when they needed a cat for the vet clinic, I said, oh, I have a really quiet cat who loves to be around people. And they said, oh, yeah, okay, we'll bring him in. And so that's kind of how that started. And then with Remy, they were looking for a dog, and they were specifically looking for like a big, fluffy, shepherd-looking dog.
Yeah.
And I said, well, can I bring my dog in and you can see if you like her? And so then, yeah, they just said, yeah, she'll work perfectly for the role. And so I think it's a little bit of both. You know, they'll sometimes say, oh, Amber, do you have something that would work for this? Or and it's fun for me because those are my kids, right? I get to see them on the show, and I always laugh because usually we don't watch all the new episodes, but if I know that Remy's going to have a starring role or she's really going to be in it, my husband and I will sit down and say, oh, look, it's Remy. So it's kind of exciting for us, too.
Well, I guess it kind of creates that little bit more of the family element, too. Because now, ever since I found it out, I was just like, oh, that's really cute. And then I watched some episodes and I was like, oh, that kind of just adds a different thing to it. Because now when you look at Remy, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's actually her dog. Like, there's a real connection there.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because I had pitched Remy to be Amy's dog a few seasons earlier when it was Lobo, but Remy was still quite young, and they didn't think that, they were like, oh, this dog has to do a lot of different things, and so they hired an older dog that was quite experienced. But then, unfortunately, the older dog was 14 when he was on the show with us, so he passed away shortly after.
Oh, no.
So then they had to find a younger dog, which, you know, in the beginning, I guess it could have been Remy all the way through, but you learn, and I think that it was important to have a dog that really understood all the commands and cues and being on set, and then over time, Remy has learned so much, and yeah, it's just been a fun experience for me, too.
Oh, that's great. Well, everything happens for a reason, so now he's on heaps. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I have to say, you are also a very busy woman. Outside of Heartland, I have heard that you've also volunteered at a wildlife rehabilitation centre where you took raptor classes to work with falcons and hawks. How was that experience? Would you like them to incorporate that somehow for your character, Amy?
Totally. I love it. I love all animals. I think that's the biggest difference between my character and myself. My character is like all horses all the way. And I'm like every odd and unusual animal that I can be around. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So I love horses, but I would say that I love all animals equally, and every experience that I can get is just so fulfilling and rewarding for me. So yeah, being able to work with falcons and hawks and eagles and owls, and it's such a cool thing because they're not animals that you are usually in close proximity to. So it's, you know, I have a real respect for birds of prey and learning about them and just, you know, how incredible they really are and fine-tuned, and you have to be really careful when you're working with them, especially when they're wild. The animals that we were working with were in because they had been either hit by a car or tangled in a net, or, you know, there was some kind of injury that brought them there. And so they were very afraid of us. And of course, you know, their first instinct is to attack or protect themselves.
Yeah.
So it was a very interesting experience, and I learned so much, and I have such a respect for those animals now, just kind of seeing just how they work and how their minds think, and it was definitely a valuable lesson for me. And so in what you're saying, I would love to have them on the show. We just have to figure out a story that would work.
Yeah. You didn't get hurt, did you, since you said they like to attack?
No, I was specially trained, but I will put that out there because I know a lot of people, if they find one that's hurt at the side of the road or something, they'll try to intervene, and it's best to call someone who knows what they're doing, because they are very powerful animals, and you know, sometimes you think, oh well, they're just small, but they have a lot of power behind their talons, and
yeah,
I think that it's important to know what you're doing when you're working around them.
Well, thank you for the warning. You do also own your own jewelry and merchandise line, which is really cool, and are also the proud publisher and principal writer of your own magazine, Amber Marshall Life and Style, which is where you detail a lot of your interests. How do you have time for all this? I really want to know. How do you juggle it all? You know, you do have a husband and a family of your own. Like,
time management. I think that the most important thing is just knowing what needs to be done and when. And with my magazine, I have always loved creative writing. It's just been something that I really enjoyed through high school and beyond. And so for me, if it's a rainy day and I'm at home, I'll sit down and I'll just write an article.
Aww.
You know, it might not be due anytime soon, but it's just one of those things that it says, okay, I'm inside, I have a couple hours, what can I do? Well, I'll just let my mind wander and I'll write an article, and maybe it will fit in with the next magazine, or maybe it will be in a couple magazines away. You know, it's just something that when I'm thinking about a topic or I feel inspired, then I'll write about it.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's kind of the way I go about the magazine. I don't do it all at once. And that's another reason that I've decided not to do 6 a year or 12 a year or something like that. I just narrowed it down to sometimes only 2 a year and sometimes 4 a year, just so that I can really make sure that I'm doing my best work and that I'm not running myself ragged, so to speak. And that's what's important for me, is that I would rather have quality over quantity.
Absolutely.
And I want to be able to do it myself. You know, a lot of people said, oh, well, you could just hire writers and you could do this and that. And I said, yeah, but this is my passion, you know, and this is how I speak with the fans of the show and people that want a little bit of insight into my life. So I want to make sure that I kind of have that creative control there. And so it's fun. And, you know, maybe one day I'll be making a new recipe and I'll think, oh, this would be fun to put in the magazine. And that's the great thing about having your own magazine, is you can put whatever the heck you want in there.
Yeah, exactly.
So things will come up and I'll be like, oh, that's great. I'm going to write it down. I'll take some pictures and I'll put that in my next magazine.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, the key is balance. You really have to make sure that you're not doing something because you feel like you have to get it done. You're doing it because you enjoy it. And if it's not fun anymore, then maybe don't do it, or find something else to do. And that's my biggest thing, is that I love everything I do. I enjoy it. People have often said, why don't you get a farmhand? Like, you should have someone to come and do your chores. Why would I do that? If I'm going to have someone come and do my chores for me, then why would I have these animals?
Yeah.
You know, I have these animals because I enjoy being with them, and I enjoy feeding them and cleaning pens and everything that goes about. And I think, too, you know, a lot of people spend an hour a day in the gym. Well, I spend an hour a day doing chores.
Yeah.
And that keeps me fit and active, and I love it. So I think a lot of times people, when they think about time in a day, they look at it differently than I do, because everything I do in my day is accomplishing something, but I'm also multitasking.
Yeah.
So I think it's important just to set up your schedule in a way that works for you. And everybody's different. You know, everybody has a different way of going about things. You know, some people work better at night, some people work better in the morning. And I've learned that too, you know, living with my husband, Sean. He loves to do all his mental work in the morning, and I love to do my mental work in the evening. So for us, if we have to talk about anything important, I say, don't talk to me in the morning. And he says, don't talk to me after dinner. So we usually, you know, around 4 o'clock, happy hour, we sit down and we discuss all the important things, because that's when we're both still at the right mind.
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, every person has a different way of approaching how they get things done and when. And the biggest thing is just to keep motivated and to keep moving forward, because it's when you kind of get in that slump, or you sit down and binge watch Heartland for 8 hours a day, then you might not get anything done.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing. And I have to say, like, I'm not a TV watcher, so I don't really watch any shows ever. So that gives me a lot more time in the day too, because when I think about people that do watch 2 or 3 or 4 episodes of something in a day, that's 4 hours gone.
Yeah.
I can get a whole lot done in 4 hours.
Could have done all your chores.
Exactly.
Well, it's also great that you've filled your life with so many passions, not just 1 or 2. But well, I'm also feel very privileged that you put some time aside to chat to me today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Oh, thank you. And we are.
How are you doing there? I just wanted to know about the fires and everything that's happening.
Oh, thank you.
Is everyone okay?
You should come film Heartland here and I guess create awareness. That would be amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, we're doing okay. Like, I'm lucky enough that I'm far enough away from it all, but it's just devastating to hear about all the wildlife that's dying, people losing their homes, and just how, like, all this beautiful greenery we used to have is just burnt now, and it just it doesn't look the same anymore. It's so
awful, but if you can find any light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, regrowth, and sometimes when things are charred and burned, the ground is even more fertile and it will come back even more lush than before. And it is nature's cycle, you know. We've seen a lot of forest fires in our area, and then I revisit them a few years later and they're just booming with life. So, you know, it's best efforts to keep everything as contained as possible. And I'm thinking about all you guys.
Oh, thank you. And look at you, motivational speaker, you. I love it. And we are unfortunately getting to the end of the interview, Amber. It's been amazing and I've had so much fun. But as a closing statement, and was probably the most important question, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your 14-year-old self?
Absolutely nothing.
Okay.
Because I feel like everyone has to go through a journey blindly. Because if they knew something, they might alter the way they get there, and then it wouldn't be the same journey.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel like everything that's happened in my life, whether it's been positive or not, it's gotten me where I am today. And I just know that if I had have changed the way I approach things, then I wouldn't have learned those valuable lessons, and it would have changed who I am today. So I think that it's so important to just go through life, and everything bad that happens, don't use it as something negative. Use it as a positive learning tool.
Yeah.
And know how to overcome that the next time it happens. Because guess what? Sometimes life sucks. and you just have to keep going and learn ways to make it not suck. You know, there's always going to be that rotten person in your life, or that event that happens that is out of your control, or there's so many things that happen to us in our 100 years of life if we are so lucky. And I think that's the most important thing for anyone, is to say, okay, this happened, how do I learn and grow from this? Because it might happen again, or it might happen to someone close to me. So I think that as long as you are always growing and learning from your experiences and passing on your knowledge too, and that's such an important thing, is there's a lot of people that go through the same problems and troubles and situations that you have. So share your experience with them. And that doesn't mean that they have to do as you did, but it just shows them that they're not alone and that these things do happen.
Oh, gosh, you're full of great advice, Amber. I love it. So thank you very much. And if our audience today want to contact you or find out what you're up to in the future, get Heartland updates, where should they go?
Definitely head to my website, ambermarshall.com. I try to keep that updated and put new exciting things up there. And then my Instagram account, I'm the only one with access to that, so I make sure I post lots of things about my animals and things that are happening. And I don't post a whole lot of pictures of myself, which people sometimes say, why don't you post pictures of yourself? But for me, my Instagram is about what I experience and what I see. And I don't spend a lot of the time looking in the mirror, so I just decided that my viewers should see through my eyes and see what I see and what I enjoy.
I love that.
So that's my Instagram, which you can also find on my website, but it's amber_marshall_farm.
Love it.
And then, I got other social pages out there you can check out, and that'll keep you in the know. And Heartland has some great pages as well. But it's basically everything you need to find, you can find on my website, www.ambermarshall.com.
Perfect. I'm sure if we just Googled your name, everything would come up anyway.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Amber. I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy woman.
Yeah, no, it was my pleasure, and it was nice to be able to talk to someone across the world.
I know, it's pretty exciting, isn't it?
Yes, have you ever found yourself in Canada?
I have never been over there, but I really want to, so I'll keep you in mind if I do.
All right, please do.
And you're welcome on the show anytime. So if you want to come back on and chat about anything, just let me know.
Oh, I love it.
And
okay, well, thank you, Lauren.
that's okay. Hopefully, if you ever come to Australia, you let me know too, and we can have an interview face-to-face.
Will do.
Awesome. We'll keep in touch and we'll make it happen in the future.
Okay. You take care.
You take care too. Well, I hope you all enjoyed today's interview. If you'd like to check out any of our other interviews, visit our website, raveituptv.com. All the podcasts and videos are there for you to enjoy. Now, before I go, everybody, remember, the only important room in the world is the room for improvement.